Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, head of DevRel at Dremio, and I want to talk to you today is about the power of the Apache Iceberg ecosystem. One of the great things about the data lakehouse space is just the vast array of tools that you can use with lakehouse tables. In this case, I want to show you how to use Confluent for taking your streaming data and turning it into Iceberg tables, but then using Dremio to then query that data. So in that case, what you can do, so in this situation, what I do is I have a Confluent account that's open right here on the screen. And what you'd want to do is that you want to create topics in your Kafka cluster, which is being managed by Confluent. Okay, so here I'm in my cluster overview, and that cluster has different topics where I can stream data into. I have a stock trades topic. Now what I want to do is I want to connect data to start being sent into that topic, and I can use one of the connectors that are available in Confluent to do that. Now what I'm using is a connector called DataGen, which generates some sample data. But bottom line is you may want to generate data that's more closer to your specific schema for your specific data for testing purposes. In that case, what I highly recommend is a tool called Shadow Traffic, which you can access over there at shadowtraffic.io in order to generate sample data for you to kind of test out features and test out whether you're using Confluent, Kafka open source. However, if you need to generate some sample data to kind of test your systems out, this is a great tool to use. Now, in that, once you have data coming in this case I have some sample data coming in, it's going to be feeding into, again, that topic. What you would do is you would go to your topic, and as easy as this, you can just click Enable Tableflow. Now, the key thing to keep in mind is that any data basically being streamed in, you're going to specify how that data is being serialized. So like, hey, what kind of data is inside the Kafka message? Now, if it's an Avro message, okay, since Avro messages are going to have schemas, sort of inherently have schemas, you can literally just click Enable Tableflow and you're good to go, and you'll be able to just choose your storage option where you can choose whether you want Confluent to store the table or you want to hook up your own external storage. You can set that up and then you're off to the races. Now, if it's, let's say, a JSON serialization or some other maybe less schema explicit orientation, then you will probably have to register a schema for those JSON messages, so that way you can make sure that it parses those messages correctly and ingests those correctly into your Iceberg tables. But literally, it's just a matter of clicking this. As you can see here, I already have this table syncing. Now, once you begin syncing, it will just basically begin ingesting that data into Iceberg. Now, in the current iteration, the frequency that it'll do this in is it'll initially create the empty Iceberg table once it begins syncing, and then will update and create basically ingest data either every 15 minutes or every 100 megabytes of data being streamed in to that Kafka topic. Okay, so if you have a lot of data coming in there, it's going to be committing very frequently. If it's like a very little bit of data, it might take a little bit longer between commits. Again, this is just sort of initial, V1 of Tableflow. But now when I click on my topic, okay, if I want to kind of find the information I need, so I can, just like any topic in Confluent, I can kind of see what data is coming in and whatnot. But I can go over here, the monitor, and here I can see the information because basically Tableflow is providing a catalog for the purposes of tracking these tables and being able to connect externally to these tables. You can find all the catalog details right over here below. Okay, so here's the endpoint to the catalog. Now, in this case, your credentials will be a API key. You would just click over and make yourself an API key for your Confluent cluster, and that'll be your credential, which you can then use to connect. Okay, so let me show you how you would then connect, let's say, Dremio. Okay, so from Dremio makes this process really, really easy. Okay, I already connected Tableflow, as you can see right here. But how did I do that? All I had to do is click on Add Source, choose Iceberg REST Catalog, because the Tableflow catalog is a Iceberg REST Catalog compliant catalog, and basically Dremio can connect to any catalog that supports the Iceberg REST spec. All you have to do is click on Iceberg REST Catalog, and then here you can put in the name of the connector. So in this case, I'll say Tableflow. Then I would just put the URL, which is the URL over here. And you want to make sure you want to use vendor credentials, so that way basically the catalog will pass the storage credentials over to Dremio to be able to access the storage for reading purposes. Okay, and if you want to limit which namespaces are visible, you can do that over here. Okay, in this case, I'm just letting all the namespaces show up. I can click on Advanced Options, and then for Confluent, it's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is add a credential here. This credential property is going to be called credential, and essentially what it is, it's going to be, let's say, stay. Okay, what it is, okay, it wants me to kind of set up a password. We'll just say that, fine. But what it is that you want to do your API key colon. Okay, so essentially it's your API key colon your secret key. Okay, so if I were to put that here in the URL bar, it's your API key colon your secret key. So when you generate that key with Confluent, this is going to be the value you put right over here, and it's simple as that. Cool. And with that, you would just hit save, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to just leave this because we already have a connection over here and right here under Tableflow. And then right here I can see the namespaces. Okay, and I can see there's the table that was created for our stock trades, and I can begin querying it. Okay. And there we go. And we're queried 412,000 records that are inside that table. And again, as more messages come in and that table gets updated, future queries of Dremio will query the live data. So you're querying the data as it is, as updates happen in that Iceberg table. So you're now basically able to query that Kafka data pretty easily and that streaming data and have sort of begin serving real-time analytics. Again, connecting that to like a BI dashboard, whether you're using like Tableau or Power BI. Being able to kind of serve this for other use cases, whether it's in a Python notebook, all these kind of different paradigms can connect to Dremio, or whether you're feeding it into a AI agent that you've customly built for your company, or you can even query that data using text to SQL. I mean, we have text to SQL that's built into Dremio, so that way you can just write text and have it generate the SQL. But we also have a Dremio MCP server where you can actually just write prompts in your any MCP server enabled client and basically be able to kind of write queries and just kind of be able to send directions that without you having to write any SQL at all. You basically, the MCP server can then figure out the SQL and then query the table for you. So there's a lot of possibilities with how you can then take that data to the next level with Dremio, how you can govern that data, create a semantic layer with that data. Dremio just lets you to take that data and then basically manage your analytical world pretty easily. But as you can see, it doesn't take that long to get up and running with Confluent Tableflow and then querying that data with Dremio. It's pretty easy, it's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. So go try it out. If you want to be doing more real-time analytics, this has become sort of much easier in today's world because you have that growing ecosystem that is built on open standards like Apache Iceberg, the Apache Iceberg REST catalog, and so much more. So thank you all very much. This is Alex Merced, head of DevRel here at Dremio. I'll see you all later.